Hi guys, hope you're doing well. You know, I hope you guys are a bit confused that why is Kopiko opened, especially if you guys have been watching that I do audits publicly, with publicly available information. So I'm actually in Indonesia right now, and I wanted to talk about one of the biggest brands in Indonesia at the point. One of them is Indomie. Of course, I want to discuss Indomie as well and their Amazon strategy. And of course, the other one is Kopiko. So Kopiko, it's not just a coffee something brand. It has actually penetrated into Arabian market as well. So it's a mega brand, right? And when I, when I'm auditing it, of course, I'm not telling Kopiko how to manufacture better, etc., etc. All this publicly available information. This is, more of an advice to whoever's importing Kopiko brand and then trying to sell them on Amazon. Because I think when you are working with such a huge brand, and of course, the brand has got MOQs of capital involved, etc., as well. Probably their supply chain could be that a big exporter from here is sending to US, or someone big as an importer is actually importing it inside USA and then distributing it to multiple retail stores as well if they're present in retail. I haven't researched that yet, but I think that there will be, because the demand is actually pretty high in here. And then a bit of these sellers are actually coming to Amazon as an FBM seller as well, a few as an FBA seller as well, and then selling them. I would suggest, one thing. Of course, it's huge on retail. One another interesting fact that I found out was that the grocery category in USA, it's I think 3% it's on Amazon. So you've got a 30% bigger market in physical retail stores. And we know people who introduce products to physical retail stores of they've worked with pretty big brands as well. Also, if you're a pretty big brand, of course you can, I'll be happy to introduce you to them. But nevertheless, coming back to Kopiko, once I search Kopiko, I see a few things, and these are advices for people who are selling Kopiko, because the market penetration could be a lot better, or Amazon's market share could be a lot better for a brand of this size. And they can actually create their monopoly because they've got multiple SKUs. They're a very low priced item as well. So, lots and lots of sales can come in. But yeah, coming back here, when I see that, okay, it's Kopiko, but on the very main keyword, there's absolutely no defensive targeting. But when I move down, there are pretty big listings here as well, 12.2 thousand, 12,000 reviews. It's no joke. And but then, once again, you've got multiple people targeting in here. Of course, this does happen a lot, especially with big brands who are not paying a lot of attention to the sales channels. I would definitely suggest all of the big brands to, even if they're not selling it themselves, pay attention via reseller program, via 1P, via 3P, it doesn't matter. But pay attention, because this is such a huge chunk of the market, not in terms of dollar value, but in terms of, even if you want to introduce your product to retailers, we've seen multiple times that if there's a huge demand on Amazon, it becomes extremely easy for them to convince them to go ahead and purchase. But yeah, there's no defensive targeting being done. Once I move around here, so I see very interesting stuff in infographics, etc., as well. All right, this is a main image, and I'm 100% sure Kopiko or any of these mega brands do not have any problem with arranging their creatives, right? They already have huge amounts of creative. All right, this is an infographic. I like this because it's telling you about the bit of a feature made with real coffee extract from Indonesia's finest volcanic coffee beans. All right, so they are giving up, their good benefits, the features. All right, so of course it's in 80 plus countries right now, even in zero gravity space astronauts to Kopiko Candy. So if it's such a huge brand, the resellers are not doing justice to it, and there are lots and lots of resellers in here, and they're not doing any good amount of justice to it. I see continuous price getting breached. So in here it's 12.77, in here it's 13.79, in here it's 14.9, then it's 12.48. I'm not sure if they're breaking a map policy, but if they're breaking map policy, that also it's not a good problem to have at all. Now, I see in here, but Kopiko being suggested, but then lots of sponsored ASIN targeting here as well. I say this to the brand, and to brands, to big UA perfume brands as well, that go ahead and ask your reseller, or ask that exclusive reseller to go ahead and run your ad. Because otherwise, if it's 1,000 sales and you have given approval to 10 different sellers, and based on whatever buy box rotation, Even if someone gets 100, they're not adding any value. Even if they start getting 500, they start getting 50% of buy box. They're not going to willingly add any value, such as running ads or doing stuff like that. And you can run ads without giving brand registry access as well. But of course, if they're shortlisting two or three of their resellers that only they are allowed to resell, and you can dedicate SKUs here and there, that can be good to you can just ask reports from them. Because of course there's no doubt about it, there's no A plus content. Then you've got multiple other brands running in here as well. uh, there's a Vietnamese brand as well, and right now there's no pretty mega brand that is their original competitor who is running it. But I'm pretty sure that Ferrero Rocher is of course like running it here, right? So you'd not want people to go ahead and buy Ferrero Rocher, although it's a very different market, but it's running the ad, right? So you have to, and they've got 33,000 ratings. And if I just open their listing, I think it will tell me a bit of a different story as compared to, what. So it's a $500,000, right? They are at $79,000. I'm not saying that this is the same product, it's extremely different product, but nevertheless, why are there no ads on it? Moving down a bit below, all right, this is Kopiko brown coffee once again selling. All of these have got tremendous ratings. So there's no doubt, or I'm not about the product, etc., etc. But the doubt is about the resellers who are working on it. How can they improve, right? And all right, so these are the ingredients. Once again, top highlights. I think I've seen these bullet points somewhere. Let me go ahead and check. On the go energy boost, true coffee essence, a coffee kickstart to the day. Just pop out Kopiko. Laser focused energy, true coffee essence. All right, this is different. Bold Indonesian flavor. All right, moving down a bit below. Once again, sponsored product, continuously getting targeted by multiple brands, and there are some good sized brands here as well. This has got A plus content. I'm hoping that this reseller, because it's Kopiko focus store, and this is Kopiko store. This is like Kopiko store, and I don't think there will be huge amount of confusion over here. Although if it would have been another brand, it would have been the confusion part would have been here. But this guy is actually only selling. That's crazy, right? He's only selling one SKU. And I think he registered another brand with the name of Kopiko Focus. And then because I'm not sure if this is Kopiko Focus Coffee. I think, yeah, this is interesting because this guy registered another brand. There's a good question that a lot of people ask, is this even legal? I'm not sure. But yeah, of course, if they've got an approval, this is actually a pretty smart strategy, right? Before getting them to brand registry, you can actually go ahead and prove something like this. And this is a very good strategy for exclusive resellers or people who want to get brand approvals as well, to work your way around this like this. All right, let's open their creamer. Yeah, so this is one of their product. Absolutely nothing on the main images, no bullet points. Now, when I talk about what Kopiko should improve, I'm talking about what a lot of these resellers should improve. And once again, 17.99. All right, it's going up to 19.9. I'm not sure, what brands are thinking when they're giving exclusive reselling, not exclusive reselling, but like resellers approval to everyone, and the brand has got no control over their listing. And if the product has penetrated well enough into the US market, now that is different. But for a brand which is not from primarily not from USA, or I don't think it has penetrated enough into the market as Ferrero Rocher or maybe Hershey's, or those brands. I'm not sure if Hershey's is US brand. I think it's an EU brand. All right, that is a US brand, but and I think Mars, and where is Mars from? Yeah, that is an English brand, right? So let's do where Snickers from. I think Snickers is from the States. Yeah. Where is Ferrero Rocher chocolate from? I think this might be also. Yeah, so it's an Italian chocolate, right? And they've penetrated in a very different sense in the market. Now, of course, their go-to-market strategy is extremely different. They're operating at a different segment. They're catering to a different set of customers. But these guys have got a wider mass to cater to, and I think giving this a huge sales channel, which is Amazon, which is the biggest e-commerce marketplace right now, to a reseller who's not, who's not doing justice to the brand, it's it's not good neither for the long term, neither for the short term. So this should be, I think, actively worked on. There's huge potential in this brand, and they should only attach good exclusive resellers. I'm not going to talk about how these guys are going off Amazon, because that's not my forte. But however these guys are going off Amazon, you know, I don't think it makes a huge amount of sense to add all of these resellers. And if they are just distributing your product, you already have a market, right? If you're just distributing your product, you should allow them to go ahead and sell on your Amazon as well, because this is going to be a huge channel if you're planning to expand to any other country. 80 countries they're already in, but this is for the distributor as well, or even not, if not directly for the brand, this is for distributor, this is for exporters, that you really need to penetrate in this specific e-commerce marketplace before you think that, okay, I should penetrate into Canada. I'm not sure if they're big in Canada or not, or if they're big in Mexico or not, but doing it over here will just build so much social proof that distributors who are, let's say, buying less will be able to buy huge amounts of inventory, right? And even if not, even if you're not, your distributors covered, you do not have a money problem over there, you still penetrate in, better into this market. You still increase your new to brand customers more. You still increase your repeat purchase rates more. There's huge potential that can be done. I think taking this listing to 3x, 4x, it's not even an issue. It's, I think, one of the simplest jobs that any PPC manager, any brand manager could do. Taking this from here to 3x, putting it to 12K, 18K sales coming in per month, because it's so much underutilized potential, and it has got such high level of rating, such high level of product, that taking it to 300K, 400K, it's just a 6 months air problem. I don't think it should take longer than that. But yeah, I think that was a quick audit. I just wanted to not just do an audit, but sort of like vent out, especially on the behalf of bigger brands as well, that they've got huge potential. They can actually create a small monopoly in this market, but and they do not even need to sell it themselves. They can do it via distributors, and we know a lot of exclusive resellers who are doing it for big perfume brands, and they're putting in their money for ad spend. They're defending that product. They're actually fighting on the behalf of brand. So it's proper delegation being done. It's not just giving it to someone and not taking care of your price, etc., etc. That becomes a problem. But yeah, I think that was about that. If any big brand here wants to tell more about how these guys were able to ensure that their map policies were enforced and a lot of that stuff, I'd love to hear that. Thank you.